Okay, good morning. Welcome to the live in-person and live Zoom worship service of the Universalist Unitarian Church of Riverside. Our opening hymn this morning will be projected. It's also in the gray hymnal, number 128, For All That Is Our Life. Although our doors are open, the pandemic is not yet over. We can speak in normal tones, but singing or chanting without a mask increases the risk of airborne exposure. So for those of you in the sanctuary, please enjoy listening or sing with your mask on. For those at home, sing your hearts out. Now please stand in body or spirit and join us.
For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is our gift, which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad. For needs which others serve, services we give, for work and its rewards, for hours of rest and love, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life. For sorrow we must bear, for failures, pain and loss, for each new thing we learn, for fearful hours that pass, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life. For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is our gift, which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad.
In person or remotely by Zoom, we will continue live streaming these services and posting on our YouTube channel. I'm Bonnie McFarland and still a member of the worship committee, and I will be your worship associate today. Other members of the worship committee you will hear from include Alec Peck, who is singing the hymns with his girlfriend, and Alice Preuss, who will be reading our sermon. We invite you to join us this morning with an open mind and an open heart, and with electronic devices muted, please. And we invite you to leave your worries and defenses at the door, trusting that you may find time of worship to be thoughtful, we hope, and inspiring. As we begin a new week, we affirm that this day, together, we may each be braver, more compassionate, and wiser. Although our doors are open, the pandemic is not yet over. So while we're here, please keep on your masks and socially distance. Before we move into the service, there are a few announcements we would like to make. We will mention several websites, email addresses, and phone numbers at the end of the service. We will leave up a slide with all this information, and it's also available on our website. Sharing joys and concerns is one of the important rituals in our community, an opportunity to share milestones, losses, achievements, and experiences with one another. On the first Sunday of each month, we can hear both from those in the sanctuary and read the contributions we have received. In the front of the pulpit, right over there is a book you can write your joys and concerns in whenever you are in the sanctuary. For those at home, please send your joys and concerns throughout the month to uuchurchofriverside@gmail.com. Our next joys and concerns will be on October 2nd. While I talk with you about the upcoming water communion, somebody's going to come around with flyers. Thank you, Grace. Now that the worst of the summer heat is broken, our water communion will be held next week. Each September, when the summer ends and we return to our regular 10 a.m. Sunday services, we celebrate our reunion through the life-giving properties of water. During this in-gathering service, members and friends are invited to pour a little water in a shared bowl and to share a summer experience with us. This commingling of our water and experiences is our water communion. So please bring your water to share in this UU in-gathering tradition on the 1st of next month. Next week? You're right. It's next week. Joys and concerns is the first. A memorial service will be held for Janice Levi on Saturday, October 1st. Grace, could you get me a glass of water? My mouth is sticking together. Thank you. A memorial service for Janice Levi will be on Saturday, October 1st at 11 a.m. here in the sanctuary. Those of us who've been around a while remember her fondly. She was the longest member of our church. The third week is the sweetest week of the month here at UUCR. After the service, there'll be a bake sale in the parish hall. Pick up your favorites. All donations will be contributed to the church general fund. The Social and Environmental Justice Committee meeting is today in the annex at 12 noon. You can find the Zoom link and more information, thank you, Grace, on the website under Social and Environmental Justice. And now I invite you to sit back and take a slow, deep breath as we move into the worship hour. Let us read together the mission statement of our church. Our mission is to foster religious community that celebrates life, affirms the individual, encourages spiritual growth and open thought, and works to advance social justice and environmental sustainability. Today's sermon was written by Professor Devorah Greenstein. Professor Greenstein led the Office of Accountability Concerns for the Unitarian Universalist Association denominations for 8 years. She retired to teach at Star King School for the Ministry as her final career shift. Star King is a Unitarian Universalist seminary in Oakland, California. Professor Greenstein's degrees in counseling, developmental psychology, human service systems, and NGO program assessment have given her a combination of theoretical and practical perspectives in which to ground her teaching and research. She teaches counseling and system courses and brings years of nonprofit program assessment to designing and implementing Star King's self-evaluation efforts. Her teaching and research are centered in anti-oppressive and multicultural transformation to confront institutional and cultural ageism, ableism, racism, classism, and heterosexism. All isms that I'm very pleased that we are finally addressing. Not we as a society, because for too long they weren't addressed. For some reason, my scroll here went up to the top of the page of the document. Okay. The sermon that Grace will be reading for us is titled "The Power of Language and the Language of Power." Our language is a reflection of ourselves, a reflection of the character, beliefs, and values of the speaker. Language, it can be a tool used for good and for not so good. It is a sharp tool, sharp in ways we aren't even conscious of. Today's reading deals with the language that frames the concept of disability. As Unitarian Universalists, our words must be reflective of the religious, existential, and spiritual dimensions of disability, and speak about it in a way that lifts up and reflects our Unitarian Universalist theology of wholeness and justice. We have two lightings of sacred flames. The first is the occupied Indigenous peoples' remembrance candle, and the second is the lighting of our own chalice, the symbol of our faith. We walk upon the traditional territories of diverse and sovereign peoples, the original people of this land, who continue to cry out for justice and self-determination. This spot we occupy was first the sacred space of several groups of Indigenous peoples, including the Cahuilla, the Capano, and the Serrano. We, the Universalist Unitarian Church of Riverside, light this sacred flame as the stewards of this sacred and holy place. We are blessed with the space and opportunity to strive to live out our common principles, to bring justice, equity, and compassion into our daily lives, to resist all that threatens the earth and her people, and to be part of a world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. Let these thoughts carry us forth as we journey and worship together. Today's reading for our chalice lighting is The Hearth of the Chalice by Bear W. Kolazua, I believe is it. As we light the chalice, may our souls become its hearth. We join our hearts to the one great flame of bright compassion. Beloved community and fervent justice, may we become lanterns to the world, lighting the way for all. Thank you, Bill. We have a tradition here at UUCR. We welcome those who are visitors or perhaps those who have been away for a long time and have come back. I know it can be uncomfortable to stand up and speak in front of others, so I will ask for a volunteer to stand up and show us how it's done. I want a volunteer who has been here a while and will tell us your name and how you found out about this church. Please step close to the mic. Are we using this mic? Okay, so if you will come forward, if you will volunteer to demonstrate this, come forward to the mic up here and speak directly and clearly into it so that everyone can hear you. Be aware you will be visible on our Zoom camera and in the recording of this service, which is posted online. Who will volunteer?
My name is Bill Rowe. In 2004, I was sitting around the sun deck, talking to 4 or 5 other guys, and the subject of churches came up, and come to find out 2 of us were Unitarian. I said, where's their Unitarian church around here? And he told me Riverside, so that's when we started looking. So.
Thank you, Bill. So that's how it's done. If you're new here, a visitor, or an old friend, please raise your hand to stand, and then we will ask you to come to the mic. Okay. We hope all of you will join us for socializing and coffee hour after the service. We'd love to chat with you in the parish hall, where you can find our visitors book. Please leave your name and contact information, if we don't already have it, before you leave, so that we know you were here and we can let you know about upcoming events. For those online, the best way to get added to the mailing list is to email the church office. Our next hymn is in the gray hymnal and will be projected. Please stand in body or spirit and join us in singing "With Your Mask On," number 123, Spirit of Life. This next portion of our service is to support our beloved historical church. This can be accomplished in several ways. In addition to the weekly collection, you may send your checks to the church address, which is shown here. You may also contribute by PayPal using the QR code shown here, as well as on the church website and in the newsletter. Stater Brothers Market gives our church a rebate on Stater grocery cards, which we have in the church each Sunday. You get the full value to spend, and the church receives a percentage in return. Please see our treasurer to purchase the gift cards. And please donate as the Spirit moves you by whatever method works best for you. Thank you for your generosity, and to those who give of their time and talent, thank you for your generous care and attention. Will our ushers now please come forward to receive the collection? Our next hymn is number 402 from You I Receive. Please stand in body or spirit and join us with a mask on in singing from You I Receive.
From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, from this we live.
From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live.
Our meditation today is by Maureen Caloran. Holy is this place. Blessed is the ground on which we stand. Holy is this place. Holy are the places of memory, the places which have formed us, where we store the icons of success and shattered dreams and gather threads and pieces of what we would become. Holy are the places of memory. Holy are the places of the dream. The places over the rainbow where all children are wanted and all people are fed, where colors are the source of celebration and youth and age come to the table as one. Holy are the places of the dream. Holy are the places of change and pain, the places of our struggle, where the rivers of our lives run white and fast, and we hold on, and grow. Holy are the places of change and pain. Holy are the places of connection, the places where we risk ourselves, where hands, touch souls, touch minds, and in awareness still, we change our lives. Holy are the places of connection. Holy are the places of becoming, the places of clear vision, where life and world intertwined, and we can see forever in this moment and give thanks. Holy are the places of becoming. Blessed is the ground on which we stand. Holy and whole making is this place. Let us pause for a moment of silence. I am pleased now to introduce Grace Preuss, who will be reading the sermon, The Power of Language, the Language of Power, by Devorah Greenstein. Please note that this sermon was written by Professor Greenstein and was selected from the UUA website. The text does not necessarily reflect the personal views of the reader. Grace?
Thank you, Bonnie. So as you can see, we have a lot of devices going on up here, and some of them are not too dependable. So I'm going to try to read off of my phone today because my laptop is acting up. So please bear with me. So today's sermon again is The Power of Language, the Language of Power by Devorah Greenstein. A while ago, my friend told me that his son had come home from school with a new put-down expression. That is so gay. My friend explained to his son that perhaps he didn't want to say that. After all, he lived in a family with 2 daddies. Gay as a put-down just didn't seem the way to go. His son agreed. The next day, he came home from school and said, "That is so retarded." When my friend told me this, he sighed and said he had started enumerating marginalized groups in his head. That is so fill in the blank with the oppressed group. Language. It is a tool for good and for not so good. It is a sharp tool, sharp in ways we aren't even conscious of. Language is, of course, words strung together. Academics who study language learn a lot about a culture from the way people use those words and the emotions that those words carry with them. The underlying meanings of words are called frames. George Lakoff, a professor of linguistics and cognitive science at the University of California in Berkeley, teaches that we understand every word by its frame. As he has described them, frames are mental structures that shape the way we see the world. As a result, they shape the goals we seek, the plans we make, the way we act, and what counts as a good or bad outcome. You can't see or hear frames. They are part of what cognitive scientists call the cognitive unconscious, structures in our brains that we cannot consciously access. These frames, Lakoff tells us, are the basis of how we reason about what counts as common sense. All words are defined relative to these conceptual frames. When we hear a word, its frame or collection of frames is actually physiologically activated in our brains. Lakoff's recent book, Don't Think of an Elephant, Know Your Values and Frame the Debate, is an important book, and it's worth reading. I work for the UUA as the Accessibility Program Associate. My work is all about words. If I look at my job from a simplistic word-based perspective, I am the highly trained disability expert, bringing information about handicap ramps, large print orders of service, assistive listening systems, etc., to congregations, districts, and UUA staff. Trained as a rehabilitation counselor and developmental psychologist, my entire career has been in the area of disability and accessibility. I have done this work for decades, and I can offer a lot of information about accessibility. But as a Unitarian Universalist minister, my work must be reflective of the religious, existential, and spiritual dimension of disability. It is my ministry. It is our ministry, clergy and lay people together, because I am certainly not alone in speaking out about oppression, about disability, about ableism. This is vastly important work, especially among those of us who are allies. It can be easy to focus on a theologically unreflective approach to accessibility work. I can teach all day about how to construct the optimal ramp, how to do an accessibility audit in your church building. I know all about using unscented beeswax candles and the brand names of unscented soap to use in your church bathroom. And I do know how important this information is. It is what enables us to be welcoming to all people. At the same time, there is so much potential to limit ourselves to this level of accessibility work. We need always to be vigilant, always to remind ourselves how easy it is to forget the foundation of our work in the world. As Reverend Laurel Hallman, a Unitarian Universalist minister in Dallas, insists that we not forget about the religious existential dimension of life and the vital necessity for us to communicate, person to person and generation to generation, the kind of truth that is deeper than everyday speech. As Reverend Hallman points out, no matter how eloquent or clever our words are, unless we are speaking to the depths of human experience, we are not achieving our purpose. Our Unitarian Universalist words are, after all, religious words that express our beliefs and our wonderment. There is conversation these days about a Unitarian Universalist language of reverence. Our former UUA president, Reverend William Sinkford, told us that it is time for the Unitarian Universalism to claim its good news, that our work is needed to help to heal our hurting world in these troubled and troubling times. So as a UUA staff person and sharing Reverend Sinkford's belief that we have a good news for a world that badly needs it, I want us to keep a language of reverence in the forefront of the disability work that we do. I want us to think about a language of reverence in our anti-oppression work when we speak about disability, ableism, accessibility. We have inherited so much value-laden language and so many value-laden concepts about these words that it behooves us to be conscious about reframing these concepts in a way that lifts up and reflects our Unitarian Universalist theology of wholeness and justice. Professor Lakoff begins his book, Don't Think of an Elephant, by telling us, carry out this instruction. Don't think of an elephant. It is, of course, a directive that can't be carried out. And that's the point. In order to purposefully not think of an elephant, you have to think of an elephant first, right? Lakoff tells us the 4 things to know about frames. Number 1, every word evokes a frame. The word elephant brings to mind a frame with an image of an elephant and certain knowledge. An elephant is a large animal with floppy ears, a trunk that works both as a nose and a hand, etc. Number 2, words within a frame bring to mind the entire frame. So the word trunk brings to mind the elephant frame. And thus when we hear this sentence, Sam picked up the peanut with his trunk, the elephant frame comes to mind, and we immediately understand that Sam is an elephant. Number 3, negating a frame still brings the frame to mind. So even if I say, Jane is not an elephant, we still think first of what an elephant is and then make a mental comparison. Number 4, the more often we hear or speak a frame, the stronger it becomes in our minds. This is because every frame is an actual neural circuit in our brains, and every time a neural circuit is activated, it is strengthened. When Lakoff talks about words that have emotional ties, it gets even more interesting. In an essay he wrote, suppose I say the word relief. Here's the frame for the word relief. In order to give someone relief, there has to be an affliction and an afflicted party. Somebody who's harmed by this affliction, and a reliever, someone who gives relief to the afflicted party or takes away the harm or pain. That reliever is a hero. And if someone tries to stop the person giving relief from doing so, they're the bad guy. You do have to admire the way the conservatives connected the word tax to the word relief to frame tax relief so strongly that anyone who opposes their version of tax cuts is a bad guy. And now, knowing a bit about frames, think of the word disability. Disability. I think we can all agree that the word disability comes with a frame that has some emotional and value-laden ties. What is the disability frame? Well, the three frames that come immediately to my mind are a biblical frame and a medical frame. And in the last several years, activists and allies have been working to strengthen a social justice/civil rights frame for disability. Now, you may love the Bible, you may hate the Bible. You may think that the Bible is the direct word of God or the accumulated folk writings of people who lived thousands of years ago. Whatever your feelings, there is no denying that a large part of our culture has a biblical frame. Unfortunately, disability in the Bible is framed by sin, wickedness, helplessness, passivity, and it's also about faith. The Bible tells us that it's your faith that heals you. And if you have no faith, you won't be healed. And about sin. There's the famous Bible story about the fellow who's been lying on a mat, paralyzed by the pool of Bethesda or Bathsheba for many years. Remember him? In John chapter 5. In the Bible story, Jesus came to him and said, in my HarperCollins Study Bible version, stand up, take your mat and walk. And at once the man was made well, and he took up his mat and began to walk. Cured, healed, a miracle. But then later in the temple, Jesus said to him, see, you have been made well. Do not sin anymore so that nothing worse happens to you. You and I may reject this biblical disability frame, but the frame connecting sin with people with disabilities or their parents, the frame of people with disabilities needing to be healed is still pervasive in our culture. And we have transferred the miracles of Jesus healing people with disabilities to the miracles of doctors healing people with disabilities. During the last 100 years, disability has become pathological in the exclusive domain of doctors and hospitals. This medical frame is still dominant. If we think of disability, our unconscious cognitive frame, our common sense, leads us immediately to understanding that disability is a personal problem, curable and or treatable by the medical establishment. What words come to mind in this medical frame? Affliction, impairment, dysfunction, illness, cure, patient, right? As the British disability theorist Michael Oliver put it, quoted in a book by Eli Clare, doctors are centrally involved in the lives of disabled people from the determination of whether a fetus is handicapped or not. Some of these involvements are, of course, entirely inappropriate, as in the stabilization of medical condition after trauma and the provision of physical rehabilitation. But doctors are also involved in assessing driving ability, prescribing wheelchairs, determining the allocation of financial benefits, selecting educational provision, and measuring work capabilities. In none of these cases is it immediately obvious that medical training make the doctors appropriate persons to be so involved. A new frame for the word disability has been growing stronger in recent years, with activists and advocates reframing disability as a social movement. This is how Eli Clare, author of Exile and Pride, names and frames the word. Disabled. The car stalled in the left lane of traffic is disabled. Or alternatively, the broad stairs curving into a public building disable the man in a wheelchair. That word used as a noun, the disabled or people with disabilities, an adjective, disabled people, or a verb, the accident disabled her. In all its forms, it means unable. But where does our inability lie? Are our bodies like stalled cars? Or does disability live in the social and physical environment, in the stairs that have no accompanying ramp? I think about language. I often call non-disabled people able-bodied, or when I'm feeling confrontational, temporarily able-bodied. But if I call myself disabled in order to describe how the ableist world treats me as a person with cerebral palsy, then shouldn't I call non-disabled people enabled? That word locates the condition of being non-disabled, not in the non-disabled body, but in the world's reaction to that body. This is not a semantic game. Reframing the word disability, Professor Lakoff has written and spoken at great length about how new frames can be created. Because all words are frames, reframing is actually changing the way the public sees the world. Reframing is changing what counts as common sense. Reframing, Professor Lakoff said in an interview, is telling the truth as we see it, telling it forcefully, straightforwardly, articulately, with moral conviction and without hesitation, over and over again. Because remember that frames are actual neural circuits that are strengthened through repetition. Pretty powerful. What does that mean for those of us who are called to a Unitarian Universalist life of faith, called to Unitarian Universal ministry, called to create a language of reverence for the work that we do? We reject the biblical frame, and we turn from the medical frame to locate ourselves in the social movement model. This, after all, is where the reframing struggle is, where our activist friends and allies are pouring their lifeblood. But do we have to reach beyond even this struggle? We have to be mindful that our culture's contemporary religious frame around disability is still based on a theology of lack, passivity, and of sin. And the work that we are doing as Unitarian Universalists is creating a new religious frame around disability, a theology of wholeness. So we need to create a language of reverence that transcends the social movement frame to reach even deeper into the most profound meanings of human experience. Reverend Laurel Hallman reminds us that in the hurting world, it is our turn as Unitarian Universalists to keep a language of hope, of reconciliation, of forgiveness alive. Hold it to our hearts and speak to the depths of those who so desperately need our good word. We Unitarian Universalists also need to remind ourselves that it is our turn to reframe disability in a theology of wholeness, and from faith to speak to the depths of those who need to hear that truly all people are whole. And from this understanding, We need to know that until we ourselves can recognize wholeness in diversity, can know in our hearts that disability is a natural part of our human complexity, we ourselves cannot be whole. May it be so. Thank you.
Oh, the changing of the laptops. Our closing hymn is Now As You Leave This Assembly of Lovers by Amanda Ludus Kessler. The words will be projected. Please stand in body and spirit and join us in singing, again with mask on, Now As You Leave This Assembly of Lovers.
Now as you leave this assembly of lovers, carry the gift that your heart has received. As you've been treated, go out and treat others, sharing the grace that is endlessly free. Keep on blessing the world as you do. Welcome the stranger and offer a feast. Work to bring justice, strive to show kindness. Surely the holy will bless you with peace. Center your mind on the things that are precious, all that is sacred and worthy of praise. Love all the world with a passion so reckless, you will know wonder the rest of your days. Keep on blessing the world as you do. Welcome the stranger and offer a feast. Work to bring justice, strive to show kindness. Surely the holy will bless you with peace. Keep on blessing the world as you do. Welcome the stranger and offer a feast. Work to bring justice, strive to show kindness. Surely the holy will bless you with peace.
We have a calling in this world, a reading by Jean M. Rickard. We have a calling in this world. We are called to honor diversity, to respect differences with dignity, and to challenge those who would forbid it. We are people of a wide path. Let us be wide in affection and go our way in peace. Amen, namaste, and blessed be. Thank you, Grace, for sharing your valuable time and insights with us this morning. It's sincerely appreciated, and we know we will be seeing you again. For those who would like to stay in the sanctuary for 10 to 15 minutes of questions and discussion related to the service, please remain in the sanctuary or online. Be aware that these comments will be posted online as part of the service video. For the rest, you are now welcome to adjourn to the parish hall. If someone has a comment you'd like to make or some thoughts about the service today, please either come up to the mic, or can we do something for people who can't make it to the mic? Okay, so we can bring it to you. Bill, can you bring the mic? Oh, can you come up? Oh, good. Okay.
Oh, yeah, this is the travel one.
Well, I was going to say I enjoyed the discussion about the frame and how it refers. I usually think of the word disability as a stereotype that puts a curse on someone. It's a label sort of like freak. And so whenever I've come across someone who's either, well, I guess mainly just myself, and I see myself as being labeled as disabled in some way, I try to soften or mute that because I know someone is going to stereotype me and use that as a definition of me. And it's just going to be a problem with my relating to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Grace?
So Bill Rowe asked me to repeat the 4 things to know about linguistic frames. So I'm going to reiterate that. So number 1, number 1, every word evokes a frame. Do you want me to read all of it? The word elephant brings to mind a frame with an image of an elephant and certain knowledge. An elephant is a large animal with floppy ears, a trunk that works as a nose and a hand, etc., etc. Number 2, words within a frame bring to mind the entire frame. So the word trunk brings to mind the elephant frame, and thus when we hear the sentence, Sam picked up the peanut with his trunk, the elephant frame comes to mind, and we immediately understand that Sam is an elephant. Number 3, negating a frame still brings the frame to mind. So even if I say Jane is not an elephant, we still think first of what an elephant is and then make a mental comparison. The more often we hear or speak a frame, the stronger it becomes in our minds. This is because every frame is an actual neural circuit in our brains, and every time a neural circuit is activated, it is strengthened. Did you want to comment, Bill? That's your comment. Okay. So while I'm up here, I'd like to make a few observations. I love that word frame. I love that word frame because it's what structures what we think about. And if we pass that frame over and over and over to other people, they're going to have that same structure. And that means that we have the power to frame something either positively or negatively, and it's extremely powerful how we pass that on. And I have another thought experiment. Thought this was interesting. So everybody close your eyes and imagine a mouse. You have the mouse image in your head? Okay, see the mouse? All right, now imagine an elephant next to the mouse. Did it move over? Did the mouse move over to make room for the elephant? It didn't? What happened, Linda, to your mouse? Covered, like overlap, yeah. Diana? Interesting. Okay. That's really interesting how plastic our brains are, right? Really interesting. And language, I think, is a miracle, right? So.
Bill?
on top of what she just said, there's the idea that says, okay, if you've ever had mice on your property and they chew up your stuff, ever since Tom and Jerry was over it, I saw how those things worked in the real. They're not as cute as they used to be. Mice. And of course, you had the whole mouse elephant, so you had the whole flinching approach. Did your image flinch? But one of the things that you get when you have a disability is the idea that says, I'm selling you the cure to certain things as I sell you the image. For example, if I sell the word mouse, I'm selling you mouse trap or exterminator, poison pellets, something like that. I think that when you've got there's the idea of selling the word as in, okay, there's room for this person to find their way through the world. And then there's what a pain in the ass this person is. And let's see if we can basically move them to some minimized frontage road, whereas the main business of the freeway goes on with the people that are not that thing. But if you frame the thing as disabled, then you sit there and say, okay, well, you get a small handful of the funding and maybe an entrance ramp here and there, and then the rest of us will be functioning at full speed. And it may be that with just a little bit of work, that the thing that you've moved into the side lane would have been if you just made allowances for, say, a couple of ramps for the wheelchair, that they can be functioning at full speed. And that might be something to consider when you've got this framed disability, and what are we going to do with it?
Anyone else? Bill, are you getting ready to stand up here? No, okay. Oh. Pardon me? Oh, I don't see the people online, but anybody online want to comment? And I think Adam? Nobody? Okay. Hi, Pat.
Good morning. I thought this was really interesting. I hadn't thought about that, but I wanted to mention, I've been watching I think it's a Netflix show of the extraordinary Attorney Wu it's a Korean film, a series with a woman who is autistic and she becomes an attorney, and the interesting things that happen to her. It's really well done. But yeah, I don't think of odds, disability is amazing. Everybody, if you live long enough, you'll probably have a disability. So it's worth thinking about.
Anyone else? Okay. Thank you all for joining us here today, and we now invite you into the parish hall for fellowship.